Hello, everybody. Well, there was yet another ignorant outburst from Donald Trump. How much of this could be excused on the grounds of senility? It was talking about NATO troops in Afghanistan. So from 2001 to 2021, NATO was served in its longest ever operation. After 9/11, the USA invoked Article 5 of the NATO Charter, calling on help from all the other NATO member states. And it's the only time it's ever been invoked. So they went to the aid of the United States, said, we have to extirpate the Taliban and Al Qaeda, which are in Afghanistan. That's where Osama bin Laden is. The Taliban has hosted him there, has allowed him to have his training facilities. And really, we have to destroy the hornet's nest or they'll come for more attacks. Put them on the back foot, we'll attack them before they can attack us. They need somewhere to train. They need bases. They need somewhere to store their weapons and so on. So they went ahead, and there was a United Nations Security Council resolution approving this. Russia, relations were much, much better between Moscow and Washington, D.C. back then, voted for it. And indeed, the Russian army had its officers give briefings to NATO officers about their experience in Afghanistan from 1979 to 89. The International Security Assistance Force was founded. Remember, the Taliban was never the recognized government of Afghanistan. That was the Northern Alliance, which only controlled about 10% of Afghanistan, as it does today, holding out in the mountain fastness. Official name, United Islamic Front. But Trump was grossly insulting to the memory of the tens of thousands of European NATO troops who fought in Afghanistan, many of them very valiantly, saying that they stayed back and out of the way. But, thousands of them made the supreme sacrifice, and that was for friendship with the United States. 9/11 was attacking the United States. Al-Qaeda didn't attack Canada then, or Poland, or Romania, or France, or Italy, or Spain, or Portugal, or Luxembourg, or the Netherlands, or Germany, or Denmark, or Norway, and so on. And there are now 32 member states of NATO now. There weren't so many back then, but more have joined subsequently. Even countries which have never been members of NATO, for example, Ukraine, they sent troops to serve in Afghanistan. And by the way, one of the biggest contributors was Turkey, a Muslim country, lest this to be thought to be an anti-Muslim thing. Unfortunately, there are a few knuckle draggers who think that it was. So we're 130,000 troops at the peak in 2013, up to 400 bases all over there to support the Afghan National Army, the official army of the United States. So besides the United States, Canada was the biggest single contributor. Soon it was the United Kingdom, Turkey, France, Germany, Denmark, Norway. Eventually, Estonia was one of the biggest per capita. They've only got 1 million people. Italy sent troops. In some countries like Poland, it was deeply unpopular. Nevertheless, Poland said we must honor our alliance with the United States. And let me see, Georgia, still not a NATO member, they sent troops as well. If you look at the per capita losses, the British, Danish, Estonian, and Georgian death toll was higher than the American death toll. So take into account the US as an enormous population, well over 300 million, even at the beginning of the conflict, bearing in mind that Georgia's got only 5 million people, Denmark's only 5 million people, the UK then only had 65 million people, and so on. So that was it. And they were often in joint bases, the Americans and the French, or the Americans and the Romanians, and stuff like that. Now, there is an element of truth in what you say about certain NATO countries, but I won't name them, where they prefer to be in couple and not to go to the most dangerous areas. But that's certainly not the case with all of them. It was difficult enough for the USA on its own. Would have been a lot more difficult if they didn't have the support of these American troops. And the overall commander to begin with was John McCall, who was British, later a Turkish lieutenant general, Hilmi Akın-Zorlu, commanded it. There were 2 German supreme commanders. There was a Canadian. There was a Frenchman, and so on. There was an Italian, and later on there were U.S. Army generals and so forth. So I just won't go through them all. But Albania sent troops, which wasn't in NATO at the time. Bulgaria sent troops, which wasn't in NATO to begin with, but was keen to join. Croatia, the Czech Republic, and so on. So lots of countries sent soldiers. Greece, likewise. Iceland, Latvia and Lithuania, when they joined. Montenegro as well, they sent troops too. Okay, so Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, and they all joined during this time. So it would have been a lot more difficult. Countries which are not in NATO, Armenia sent some troops to serve the German contingent. Austria, a non-NATO country, they sent troops. Azerbaijan, a Muslim majority country, they sent soldiers as well. Bosnia-Herzegovina, Finland wasn't in NATO at the time, and they sent troops as well, and 2 soldiers were killed. Now, the Republic of Ireland, we sent troops in a non-combat capacity, bomb disposal, trainers, medical staff, so helping the mission without killing anyone because, we're neutral. North Macedonia. What was I going to say? Even Switzerland, a very strictly neutral country, and Sweden, a neutral country. Australia has never sought to join NATO. They sent soldiers. Bahrain, El Salvador, Jordan, Malaysia, again a Muslim majority country, New Zealand, Singapore, South Korea, Tonga, and even the UAE, an officially Muslim country, sent troops. So it's a grotesque lie. Is he just plain stupid? And there was no need to be so egregiously offensive, especially when it's completely wrong what he said about these NATO soldiers. This is as though he's written the book How to Lose Friends and Alienate People by the Honourable Toby Young, because that's what he's doing. And then it plays to this very distasteful streak of chauvinism in the United States. I'm not saying most Americans are like that. And you'll find that in every country. It's difficult with your superpower not to be conceited. Okay, British people are often said to be arrogant. And when the United Kingdom was mighty, I think more British people were arrogant. I mean, there's some people who are arrogant regardless of their nationality. But anyway, it's just ugly. It's ignorant. It's dead wrong. So it's just revolting what he said, spitting on the graves of America's comrades. Well, other NATO countries might say, all right, then we won't come to your aid. If our efforts are not appreciated, you can be on your own. But of course, they really want American support in case Russia invades Europe, but they're increasingly unsure that they're going to get it. And if you definitely pull out of NATO, that would be it. But by saying half in, half out, that's the worst of both worlds for everyone. All right. So thank you so much for listening to my video. Make sure you subscribe on Patreon, donate PayPal, georgecallan79@gmail.com. Goodbye.